Please be seated. Good morning. You're going to be referred to as Juror B37, and we're going to ask you, or the attorneys are going to ask you some questions about your questionnaire that you filled out yesterday. Mr. De La Wonder, you may.
Related to the case, you don't remember only the names?
Just a broad spectrum of names.
Okay. Right. And then the place of the crime and the names of the people, that's all you really recall?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your contact with the media exposure in this case, would it have been at the time when this happened back in February of 2012, or would it have been recently? Or
no, it was back when it first happened.
Okay. And do you recall your exposure to it? Was it local or national news?
Local news.
Do you recall whether it was a newspaper, radio, or TV?
It was TV.
Okay. And what particular station do you recall?
Probably NBC.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably Today Show is pretty much my source in the morning.
Okay, so
when
you stick to NBC locally and nationally?
Pretty much, and it's the only time I kind of listen to it is in the morning when I'm fixing I have a lot of animals and I do all their food in the morning.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. And newspapers are used in the parrot's cage.
I'm sorry?
Newspapers are used in the parrot's cage, not even read.
Do you read them before you do it?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm not going to comment on that.
It's a lot better used in the parrot cage.
Okay, all right. So you have no use really for the newspapers?
I don't.
Okay, and why is that?
I just don't think they're truthful. I think there's a lean left or a lean right, politically.
Sure. And in terms of the newspapers, at least the local newspapers here, do you believe they lean one way or the other in terms of lean left?
I don't know. It's been so long since I ever even read one. The only time I see them is when I'm putting them down on the floor.
Okay. How about from NBC standpoint in terms of the news? What do you recall other than the names? Anything right now? Now you've had some time to think about it. And what I mean by that is from Monday when you filled this out yesterday morning. Anything else kind of pop in your mind that you remember about the case?
Well, I remember the names.
Okay.
And I remember the issues in Sanford when they were having rioting.
Okay. Tell me what you remember about that.
That's pretty much it. Just that there was a whole lot of indiscretion and angry people and picketing people.
Sure.
And a lot of news media.
Okay. Now, we have the First Amendment, we have the Second Amendment, we got all kinds of amendments. How did you feel about, in terms of people having rallies around here? Did you form an impression based on that? Did you feel that was proper or not proper? What kind of things went through your mind?
Not really proper or improper. I mean, they can do what they can do as long as it's peaceful.
And did you think it was inappropriate what they did?
I think maybe it was overdone.
Okay, all right. As a result of that, did that impact you one way or the other to favor Mr. Zimmerman's side or the state side in terms of on behalf of Trayvon Martin?
Not really, because I think it's just an unfortunate incident that happened.
Okay. And I gather, based on your questionnaire, you have not formed an opinion in this case, correct?
I have not.
Okay. In terms of your exposure to the publicity or media aspect of it, on the radio, did you listen to it on the radio at all? Or
no, I don't listen to the radio,
okay.
really.
How about on your internet surfing? Are you not?
I don't do that either. I'm pretty much on the Candy Crush saga right now.
Okay.
Trying to get to the next level.
Gotcha. All right. So you didn't do any, like Facebooking or anything like that in terms of particular to this case? Right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
None.
How about, and you didn't do any research on your own?
No.
Okay, since you live in this community, at least in Seminole County, you didn't do any
I have
research?
no time to do anything other than feed my animals and sleep.
And how
Sometimes
about,
the sleep is rare.
okay. How about with friends? Did you have any discussions with friends, in the community about what was going on, about the case?
Not really, just that it was there.
Okay.
I mean, politics and news, and I just kind of
Stay
don't indulge
away
in
from
it.
it.
Yeah.
How about family? Did you have any discussions with any family members where they gave you opinions or they talked about
No.
facts of the case?
Absolutely not.
So you're one of those individuals that just focuses on what you've got going on in your life?
I do.
Don't worry about any other external stuff?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because you normally don't get all the information, so how do you form an opinion if
So
you don't have the information?
you don't really trust the media in terms of being able to be accurate?
I do not. I think it's that, I don't know if there's any way they can control media hype like that.
Sure. Now, the media sometimes, especially now with all the TV stations and stuff, and even some might argue the newspaper aspect of it. Sometimes besides giving the news, they also sometimes give opinions, and they have people giving opinions. Have you paid attention to any of that stuff?
I have not.
Okay. How do you feel about that, people giving opinions about facts of the case or anything like that?
It's media. I'm not a big fan. I mean, it's First
Now,
Amendment, but
and I know your exposure to this case in terms of the media aspect has been limited. Assuming you were to get on a jury and you're sitting in the jury and you're listening to the evidence and you hear, ABC in terms of, one witness says ABC, and you go, hold on. Now that I think about it, and I do remember your perception or what you recall, and I know it's limited in terms of exposure in this case, whether that would factor in at all or interfere with you being able to sit as a juror and keep an open mind.
no, sir.
Okay, so as we sit here today, as you sit here today, I'm standing, you feel you can be fair in terms of publicity, that has not impacted you one way or the other, either in favor of Mr. Zimmerman or in favor of the state of Florida on behalf of Trayvon Martin.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I have a moment, Your Honor. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Mara?
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
How are you? As a sort of a parent, this is very limited. First time we'll talk to you is just going to be about what we call pretrial publicity, what you brought to the courtroom about the facts of the case or your thoughts about it. So we're going to be limited to just that. And it sounds as though you have a strong opinion about the media, which is to regard them with skepticism.
Skepticism, politics, skepticism, because you never get all the information. There's no possible any way that you can get all the information without it being leaned, skewed one way or the other.
How do you handle that when you do seek to get news?
I really don't.
Okay.
I let my husband deal with that.
All right.
That's his deal.
Okay. Are there any sources that you look towards to get information about a subject that you want to find out about?
Probably Safari.
Just
Google.
a Google search.
And normally it's about animals of some sort or another.
Sounds like you have a number of them.
I have too many.
Too many. At least one parrot.
One parrot, one crow with one wing. He's like 15. I volunteered for rescue groups, bird, cat, and you wind up with animals.
Okay. How many altogether?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have 3 dogs,
All right.
4 cats, and a couple lizards. I just rescued a lizard like a month ago.
Okay. Your service on this jury could run several weeks were you to be selected.
Yes, sir.
You got that, I think, from the questionnaire. And there's a chance that you would be sequestered, meaning that you will not be spending time at the house, but rather with the rest of the jury. How would that affect your household duties with the animals and everything else that you do at your house?
My husband already said that he would do it all. But I do have 2 daughters that would be backup.
Okay. So that part of it would be covered if you had to spend several weeks with us.
Yes, sir.
Anything else that we haven't talked about or that you didn't mention on the question talking about hardship? Anything else that you have going on that would affect your ability to deal with this case where you're asked to do it for several weeks?
Well, the hardship would be my boss's hardship for me not being there. But I'm not sure that's a hardship.
Okay.
It's dealable.
If you weren't there, he's got to deal with the fact that you're not there.
Right.
You would certainly have a job to go back to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But he wouldn't like it.
And, okay. Are your family finances such that it would not cause a hardship that you couldn't get past were you to spend those several weeks with us?
No, because I would be paid.
You'd be paid through your work? You had mentioned that your knowledge of the case was just sort of early on, is that right? And more of a broad spectrum of names. If I asked you to tell me the most significant issue or fact about this case that you remember, what would it be?
Just that there was a death.
Do you remember who it was who passed away?
It was Trayvon Martin.
Okay. Describe him.
He was a boy of color, and I believe teenage years, older teenage, I believe. I don't even know how old he was.
Okay. And obviously shot by Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes, sir.
What do you remember hearing about Mr. Zimmerman back there in the beginning of it?
I just heard that he was involved in a scuffle. It was late at night, and the boy was killed.
Anything about those few facts that you had heard about that, tell me what you thought about that.
I thought it was very unfortunate that somebody died, but that's why you have a jury, and that's why you have a trial, to prove innocent or guilt. It's just very sad.
And then you mentioned some concerns about the way it was responded to in the community. Is that correct?
Well, in the media.
Did you have concerns about the picketing or what was sort of happening as a response to Trayvon Martin's passing?
Not really concerned, because I'm not involved in any of it. And Sanford is kind of away from Oviedo, Winter Springs. I mean, I knew there was rioting, but I guess they had it pretty well organized.
You don't spend much time, you mentioned safari, but you don't spend much time what people now call surfing the internet, just to see what's out there?
I don't have time.
Okay.
I really don't.
So when you go on the internet, it's for a particular purpose?
I'm looking for a recipe, or I'm looking for something.
Okay.
No news.
Have you ever gone to any of the websites, or any websites that are specific to this case?
No, sir.
There are petition websites and things like that. Have you ever signed a petition regarding this case?
No, sir.
Ever looked at any of that information on the internet?
No, sir.
You said that you have a couple of daughters?
I have 2 daughters,
Okay. Their ages?
24 and 27.
Do they live nearby you?
One lives with us, and one lives just a little ways away, 10 minutes away.
Have you discussed this case, or even generally, with your husband?
I'm not.
Not at all?
No.
Even when it was early on, when you were talking about some of the reactions to it, was that ever a point of conversation?
No, sir.
Any other people in the neighborhood, or your daughters?
No, sir. There was the other day at work, somebody came in, said that the trial was going to begin, and that pretty much was it. Because I got busy with something else.
You did mention at one point that you thought you heard, that your default national program is the Today Show.
Yes, sir.
Did you say that you saw something about this case on the Today Show?
At the very, very beginning when it happened.
And do you recall what it was that you saw?
It was just, it wasn't even an interview. It was just a news flash saying that there was a death and there was rioting in Sanford.
Okay. Primary concern that we have when we talk about what you bring is if we don't talk much about it now and something comes up later,
Yes, sir.
that which comes up later could affect how you look at the case or how you act as a juror.
Yes, sir.
So it sounds as though you've kept yourself, just the way you live your life, pretty isolated from this event. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And that you don't have any thoughts in mind or predispositions about what happened that night?
No, sir.
Let's say that something came up. Mr. Delianda, I think, approached this. Something came up where you did remember something. Remember something about the rally, or something about a conversation you had with a neighbor that we didn't talk about here today, but now you're sitting on the jury. how would you handle any conflict between that memory and the evidence that you hear in this courtroom?
Well, the evidence that I hear in the courtroom, I would presume to be true. If I had a conversation with someone else that I remembered, the facts are maybe not the facts.
If, let's say that another juror did the same thing while you were deliberating with that juror. You know how the process works? You take evidence, you listen to the judge, you find out what the law is, and then you'll go back, and the jury will decide what happens.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm sorry, decide their verdict.
Right.
In that context, what if another juror talks to you and says, well, I heard about something else that I didn't hear in the courtroom. I remember I saw this on TV or read it on the radio, read it on the newspaper or heard it on the radio, and I think this happened, even though it never came from a witness here. How would you react to that?
I would say it was media hype. I mean, you can't prove anything that you heard prior to this case.
One of the instructions that you're going to be told by the judge is that you have to decide only on the facts that you hear, competent evidence in this courtroom.
Yes, sir.
And that while we won't ask you to leave your common sense at the door, we actually want you to use your common sense. We can't let you bring outside evidence or knowledge or information inside. So would you be able to advise another juror doesn't come from a witness stand, it doesn't get considered?
Yes, sir.
Though you have not talked much with your other family members, have your daughters or your husband just sort of downloaded on you their thoughts about the case?
No, sir.
No conversations at all?
None.
The judge is going to instruct you for you to be on the jury. Not only is there a chance that you might be sequestered, but either way, that you cannot discuss this case with anybody during the time of your service.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be able to do that?
Yes, sir.
Even if your husband says, you know, I think this about that.
No, my husband would be totally opposite. He would, no, I can't talk to you.
So he's not going to be the problem then.
Yeah, he even told me last night, he said, do not watch the news. You're not allowed to watch the news.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So now he told me this morning that he'll tape the Today Show. I can watch it when I get home, but he'll have already edited it.
Great. So he's going to be an
I think it's
advocate.
a little over and beyond, but I'm thinking I just won't watch the Today Show.
Sounds like he's willing to be an advocate on the court's behalf to make sure that you don't see anything you're not supposed to see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If other people that you've spoken to about this case, friends or family, do you know whether or not they've made or have any opinion about the case?
I really haven't talked to anybody about the case.
And if I asked you for just a raw number of times that you've heard since what was the first thing you heard about this case?
On the Today Show.
Okay, that was it.
Uh-huh.
From that point all the way forward through today, if I asked you just total of how many times you've talked to anybody about it, added to the number of times that you've seen anything about it in the media, I include reading, internet, TV, radio.
The only thing I would have heard about the media, with the media, are blurbs about, you know, popping in and popping out.
Okay.
And normally I'm half listening to that anyway.
So a gross number of inputs that came to you from people or media. How many do you think?
I have no idea.
Okay. Nothing, however, to really have any impact or influence on you?
No, sir.
Great, thanks for the time.
You're welcome.
Stay seated, please. When counsel's ready, please come forward. Please take Juror 37 to the 4th floor, and we're going to take a 10-minute recess. We'll be with you again shortly. Thank you. It's 11 o'clock. We'll be taking a 10-minute recess. Court will be in recess.